It appears that Forspoken was an absolute failure for Square Enix, having Square Enix themselves admitting to it in an investor brief as being a failure, which we'll get to here very soon, which isn't surprising at all when you had the game have its dialogue and cutscenes get leaked, and it showcased just how terrible of a game it was. And no, it wasn't that the main character in the game was a black female. It was because of the lackluster boss battles and gameplay, terrible dialogue, and you can't forget about the cussing that takes place what felt like every few minutes. And what happened? You had people call the haters or people that dislike the game racist, even having an original God of War director doing just that. And not saying that the quality of the game was crap, because they can't admit that because of the game having a black female lead. That is how these people operate in their minds. To which we are now seeing copies of the game being found in dumpsters. And these weren't ordinary copies of the game, but rather steelbooks in which those editions tend to be quite favorable and sought after amongst physical collectors. But yet, they somehow managed to get thrown out. How funny is that? Perhaps it was because sales weren't so hot after all, and all the people that defended the game and saying that they bought multiple copies seems to not have helped in the slightest with this situation. As very recently, within these past few days, we had Square Enix have an investor briefing in which they also talked about Forspoken reviews, as well as its terrible sales number when it came to the release of the game, even having Hi-Fi Rush, a game that was stealth dropped and a fraction of the cost, that being $30 per game, compared to Forspoken's $70 price tag per game. Beating Forspoken even when it comes to revenue, which should put Square Enix to shame, as they are also the ones that have made Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, having Forspoken being a giant degrade for the company. And before we get into the article that Forbes has provided for us, please don't forget to subscribe and like, and I'd really appreciate it as we get into the article. In an investor briefing, Square Enix talked about how both reviews and sales for Forspoken have been disappointing. In quote, reviews of Forspoken, which were released on January 24th of 2023, have been challenging. However, the game has also received positive feedback on its action features, including its parkour and combat capabilities, so it has yielded results that will lead to improvement of our development capabilities of other games in the future. That said, its sales have been lackluster, and while the performance of new titles with February and March release dates will be the ultimate determinant. The game has been mostly negative when it comes to critics, to which no one cares about, and the numbers that should be of concern is the user score, and well, it isn't good at the slightest, sitting at a user score of 1.8 on PC. And when it comes to PC, the only way to have this game run smoothly is if you have high-end parts. And if you don't, well, enjoy playing a choppy game. And on PS5, the game is sitting at a 3.4 user score, which is really low still, and no dev team wants their game to be rated that low, especially when it comes to people playing their game. As we get back to the article, since the Forspoken launch, Luminous Productions has been absorbed into Square Enix itself and will work on future projects there. When that happened, it meant that there would be no Forspoken sequel coming, and this was not the birth of some big new RPG franchise the way Square Enix was hoping it would be. And Forspoken was Luminous Productions' second game that they created, and the other being Final Fantasy 15. And if you ask me, that is not a good track record. That's a 50-50 shot of having a company creating something of a wonderful success, and the other success being absolutely god-awful and a complete failure, which isn't a success. As we continue on, Square Enix, of course, has Final Fantasy 16 coming out this summer, which everyone expects to be a hit. Because it's Final Fantasy. Everyone expects it to be a hit. But outside of long-running series like that, Square Enix has had a tremendous amount of trouble crafting new series. The struggles with games like Marvel's Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Deus Ex, and Tomb Raider have been well documented, and were part of the reason Square told Eidos and Crystal Dynamics to embrace their group last year. But with Forspoken, it's clear its problems extend beyond that. And the only thing that is keeping this company afloat is Final Fantasy, which many of these other projects such as Guardians of the Galaxy and Deus Ex haven't been hits, to be quite frank. Especially Marvel's Avengers, as their live service will be shutting down at the end of this month, being a complete failure because no one was playing the game. It's a strange time for Square Enix. Its president, Yosuke Matsuda, is leaving the company after a string of years where he tried to hard sell Web3 blockchain and NFT games in the face of an industry that has overwhelmingly rejected them. Everyone believes Square Enix may be trying to get itself acquired by someone like Sony in the great consolidation race of the current generation, but for now, no one may be biting. It truly does feel that people who tend to get these higher positions with more power are the ones that are always incompetent and don't know what they are doing. Time and time again, NFT games have failed and the public doesn't want anything to do with them. Yet these corporations continue to push it down people's throats and still are somehow amazed that they aren't making money off of it. And no, the game didn't flop because the lead was a black female character. It flops because of it having terrible quality. It certainly doesn't help when a game is marketed one way in which people were excited for it, and then being quite the opposite of what people were expecting when it releases. Especially having the requirement for having high-end PC parts to run the game on PC smoothly. And with this whole new push of having the blockchain being implemented into the gaming industry, it's going to be like the next loot box microtransactions era that no one is going to want. But that is the way things are heading for the future of gaming. And with all that in mind, I'll get your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.